take a moment today to thank the boldness of our government and our shareholders.
William Hamilton built his venture on the ashes of the Second World War. Copper mine he envisioned was ransacking the First Nations' ancestral territories, drawing the wrath of the local people. It definitely took nerves of steel to stay the course, despite all this hostility. Before long, in the face of William Hamilton's cold and uncompromising stance, the petitions and peaceful protests turned into sabotage, vandalism, and other criminal acts. The industrialists' private properties also encountered the wrath of the demonstrations. Carl Faubert, a veteran of the Korean War, was hired from Montreal as a private detective to shed some light on this whole thing. But at the end of his long journey to northern Quebec, the detective did not only encounter property damage, he also came face to face with the corpse of William Hamilton. The strangeness only kept building throughout the investigation. A powerful, unseasonable blizzard hit the region. Bodies frozen in unbreakable ice appeared. The local fauna began to act strangely and aggressively. Carl Faubert began to doubt his own sanity. The detective felt the weight of a gaze, as if he were at the mercy of a powerful, feral creature waiting for the right moment to attack. Carl's fear was taking over, overpowering his reason. He was giving in to delirium. In that instant, he thought that the dark waters of the lake might shield him from the shapes that pursued him. From there, he had a renewed hope in civilization, or whatever was left of it. Carl knew that on one of these shores stood William Hamilton's lavish mansion, and there the detective had hopes of finding a way out of the area. A phone, a truck, who knows? Under the luxurious paneling and damask carpets, he might be able to find answers to his questions. The detective wondered about the floating debris. Had it drifted out from the shore, or had it been abandoned there in the middle of nowhere? Carl saw a boat in the distance, clearly piloted by one of his own. Had he finally made it to civilization? His hopes were immediately drowned out by the sound of gunshots. Time to flee again, and fast. Carl swam without a thought, yet each stroke was desperate. The icy water and his wounds made him feel weaker and weaker. He had to get to shore.
Même si on l'a manqué, l'empreinte ne se trouvera pas longtemps.
The bleeding and the hypothermia were tearing at Carl's poor body. When he finally saw a light in the distance, he was filled with a faint sense of hope. Could it be a refuge? The red glow of the flames allowed Carl to see the full extent of his injuries. In the warmth, Carl began to feel the stinging burn of his wounds again. Carl struggled to wake up. His makeshift bandages offered him little time. If he wanted to find the truth, he had to get to Hamilton Manor without delay. Carl left his refuge, knowing that he was headed to a more comfortable, but otherwise ominous place. Hamilton's mansion. Successfully scaring away a bear is great for your self-esteem. The consequence of failure, however, may lead one to wonder whether self-esteem isn't a bit overrated. He knew that wolves do not attack people. Still, he had to be careful. Wolves do not generally attack human beings. At least, not unless you attack them first. The ice looked recent. Better not test it. Carl tried to put the horror into perspective. Accidents happen, and in the inhospitable far north, it happens more often than not. Nevertheless, a feeling of déjà vu stayed with him, as if the carnage was not over. An access card, a rather modern piece of technology, especially for a mining complex in the far north. What could it possibly open? The plan suggested that a package had to be retrieved not far away. Carl had to keep his eyes open. Security was more reminiscent of a Korean military base than a mining operation. Gas mask. Carl had tried out older models as an infantryman. He hardly saw the need for such equipment to protect against simple ore dust. radiation detector. Clearly, Hamilton's people were digging for more than just copper. Keeping this handy tool could prove beneficial. What were these mysterious fragments? And why was there a warning about the Brume? This letter raised more questions than it answered for the detective. This kind of lead-lined bag had only one purpose: to contain the radioactivity of an object. Carl picked it up, hoping with all his soul that he would never need to use it.